Welcome to the Veterinary Compassion Project podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Holder, and I'm excited to share a conversation today about a fascinating approach to healing. At VCP, our mission is to give you tools to support your own healing, helping you work through both past and present traumas. We also bring you resources to strengthen the business side of veterinary medicine, from financial management to workplace culture. Ultimately, we want to help you feel empowered to set healthy boundaries and live your best life. Usually, I start by reading a guest bio, but today I'd like to do something different. I'm inviting Karie Gonia to introduce herself and share what led her to discovering her healing modality and how she's been able to help hundreds of people through her work. Thank you so much for being here with us, Karie. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. And I love what you're doing, Dr. Aaron. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
So, my background is a little bananas. So, I do a therapy called Family Constellation Therapy. And so, I primarily clean up generational trauma, but I didn't start there. So, I was a very intuitive, very kind of psychically gifted child. I started dreaming about ancestors when I was a little kid. When I was like 3 or 4, they would give me information. I would go tell my parents, and it was all verifiable information. Back in the 70s and the 80s, that was not the gift to have. And so I very quickly learned to just keep it quiet. But I was really lucky. I say this every time I go on a podcast. My teacher showed up when I was young. So I started I started studying with a shaman when I was like 23, but I had a very big corporate job. So I studied psychology, and helping people was my passion. But I had, at the time, I didn't know, I had a lot of generational trauma. So I come from a family where it's like, you work hard, you be kind, you stay in these jobs, you buy a house, you like follow this program, which is what I did. So I worked in tech for a bank for a very long time. I traveled a ton, was burned out all the time, kept getting sick, kept getting pneumonia, non-smoker, non-drinker, never done a drug in my life. I just kept having all of these lung problems. And in family systems, lungs are grief. So I was absolutely trapped in a life that was not authentic to me, but I was just so in the program, I kept going. And then at 30, I had a blood clot in my lung and I almost died.
Oh,
And it was very scary. It was very, very scary. But I tell this story a lot. I had a wonderful doctor in the ER. He was probably honestly my age. His name was Dr. Ian. And he sat on the bed and said, whatever it is that you're doing, if you keep doing it, you will die. There is something spiritually, there is something creatively that needs to come out of you. And if you don't do it, you will die. And I,
oh,
of course,
oh,
I didn't listen because I had a mortgage and I had this big girl life. And so I was deathly ill for 4 to 5 months. And then I finally got the courage to resign from my job. Within 72 hours, everything went away.
what?
Literally everything went away. Yeah. And when they released me from the hospital, they were like, oh, we think you have lung cancer. Like, I mean, my lungs were just a mess. And I was so young.
Oh my
And
God.
I resigned from my job and everything went away. And I had this massive, massive spiritual awakening that had been there the whole time, but I had just been ignoring it because I wanted to belong to my family. I wanted to belong to the society, humanity, whatever. And then really woke up to the fact that I was in the wrong life. And then magically, I moved to LA. I had a dream to move to LA. 2 weeks later, I went, and Family Constellation Therapy found me. And Aaron, it was like my whole life made sense because I was obsessed. I don't want to say I was a weird little child. I was just very empathetic, creative, like very sweet, intuitive little child. But I was obsessed with how families worked. I was obsessed with family systems. I was obsessed with the ancestors. So when
Yeah.
Family Constellation Therapy found me, I was like, ah, this makes sense, but my spiritual kind of awakening was pretty dramatic.
And sometimes that's what it takes, especially like for those listening. I know Amanda and I talk about this constantly, which is how do we get people to not have to go through that dramatic, traumatic situation? How do we get them help before they hit the wall? And it's so funny because I typically make decisions pretty quickly. But for
Yeah.
me, my decision to sell the business and move to Hawaii came out of a nap. Like I went
Yeah.
to sleep, I woke up, and there was
Yeah.
some type of something said, this is what you're going to do, and this is what I
Yeah.
ended up doing. So I that
Yeah.
resonates so deeply with me. Now, before we talk about family constellation therapy, tell me, what is generational trauma? What does that
So
mean?
generational trauma is any trauma that gets passed down through an ancestral line. So you'll hear it be called generational trauma. Sometimes you'll hear it be called intergenerational trauma or transgenerational trauma. So if grandpa great grandpa was in the Holocaust, they have done all of these studies through epigenetics that we carry the cellular memory, we carry the trauma as if the event happened to us, even if it happened X amount of generations ago. So family constellation therapy kind of goes into that process and helps. I'm really visual, so I always tell people it's like hoses that have been kinked over and over. So when you're working in generational trauma, you're going backwards to unkink the hose so that you can actually move forward. And again, in my history, I love that you brought up too of how can we make those choices before it's dire, right? Like I had known, honestly, Aaron, for probably 5 or 6 years that I was in the wrong life, but I just had so much fear. And so I always tell my clients, I was like,
Yeah.
don't wait until it gets really hard. For me, it obviously had to be that hard for me to kind of wake up and get out of the wrong life, but you'll get those nudges. You'll get those synchronicities. So I always tell people to pay attention to that. It'll be
Yeah.
easier,
And a
you know.
friend of mine who just left her job and left her current situation, and she had
Yeah.
a going away party, she said that so many people walked up to her and said, I wish I had your courage. And that was
Yeah.
like the resonating theme, that she walked away from her going away party with, I wish I had your courage. And that's so
Wow.
sad to me. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that together we can give people the courage, because it is very scary. And we tend to stick with what we know, and we don't
Yeah.
because it's comfortable, and to step outside of that is difficult. And even me saying that, I think that a lot of the people listening to this podcast are scientists. And
Mhm.
so to think and discuss something like family constellation therapy is like stepping outside of what they know to experience something and actually not be afraid of it. So
Yeah.
so you
Mhm.
kind of told me like what family constellation therapy is, but can you go into like a little bit more depth with it?
Yeah. So this part might be hard for the scientists. Although I actually love that there's been so much study around,
It's
you know,
happening.
quantum energy, quantum fields,
Absolutely.
epigenetics. I mean, I've been doing FCT for 13, almost 14 years. So I'm used to people staring at me like I have five heads, but now
Absolutely.
it's easier to have the conversation of, okay, so in family constellation therapy, it kind of blends traditional IFS, internal family systems therapy, but the practitioner opens up what they call a morphogenic field. So just kind of quantum energy, if you will. I always tell people family constellation therapy is kind of like acupuncture without the needles. So the field is my favorite part. It's called the knowing field. So the field is the soul's consciousness of your entire family system from start to finish. So FCT is predominantly done in big groups of people. So let's say if you came to do a constellation, you could be in a room of 50 strangers, and those strangers would step into the field and represent the energy of your mom, your dad, your grandmother. You can do what is called aspect work, which I do a lot of just because I don't want people to need a ton of sessions. You could look at war trauma. You could literally put in compassion fatigue and read the energy around that. So when someone steps in the field, they represent the energy of that ancestor, which is trippy, right? Like you're in a room, in a room full of strangers, you can step in the field and all of a sudden be transported to World War II and the fear and the anxiety. Your body can have a lot of physical movements. You can get sick to your tummy. You can start crying hysterically, or you can feel nothing. I have done over 7,500 constellations. I work way too much,
I should have said
but
thousands. I said
I
hundreds.
know.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Correction.
yeah, 7,500 constellations. I work a ton, and I find that if you're in the field and you don't feel anything, no movement, no emotion, anything, addiction is stuck somewhere in your family system and or repression, which in our
Oh,
parents and our grandparents generation, there's a lot of repressed emotion.
so
So
much.
so much. So that's part one. And then part two, in order to clear the energy, the founder of this work says use healing statements or truth statements. They're just short, choppy little sentences that the practitioner says. I channel them. I don't know that a lot of people work that way. So I literally close my eyes, I feel into your ancestors, I channel what they tell me to say, and then you repeat after me. And I always tell people that's when the hose unkinks and everything kind of comes up and out. If you came to me during this is how you did it with a one-on-one, we would just use paper instead of the people, which again, for that scientist brain, I think it's weird to step on paper in your home and
It's
be like,
so weird, and I'm totally going to talk about my experience because before I put anybody on my website, like
yeah,
I've done this, everybody. I've done it. It's safe, it's cool, it's amazing. And so that's how you get on the website as resources.
yeah,
Is I have to
yeah.
test it out.
It's so, gosh, I've been doing it for so long, but I feel like anytime I go into the field, I'm still so mystified by it. Like
Yes.
it's weird. It's so
Yes.
cool. It's
Yes.
really magical. Yeah.
All you scientists out there, let me just put a little asterisk out there, which is if you have not studied quantum physics and the entanglement and the winning of the Nobel Prize for entanglement, just take a minute to Google it and
Yeah.
look into this, and you can really get caught up in this very exciting minefield, which I say the biological sciences have not caught up to our physical sciences. Our physical sciences are way ahead, and I feel like they're way more open-minded than our biological sciences.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you bring up these generational traumas, you bring up this healing, and you help people be able to move forward. You help them be able to just kind of like get rid of that.
Yeah.
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 What? Yeah, go ahead.
There was years ago, I probably read it 10 years ago, but there was this New York Times article where this gentleman in New York grew up in a Jewish family, very close knit family, but nobody talked about anything. And so at a very young age, this man started having like war dreams. He would dream that he was in the Holocaust and he was experiencing it as if it was happening. But he would go tell his parents, and they were like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. Subsequently, in his 40s, he committed suicide, but it came out that his grandfather had been in the Holocaust and was killed in the Holocaust. And so it's like you can have that felt sense in your body of a trauma that you didn't even experience, you know? So it's a very
And you
real thing.
and you may be wondering, like, why am I so different from everybody else? Why can't I find happiness or peace? And it may be something like that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
We
I
just
was
want to
that
always put
child.
everything. Oh, yeah. We just want to put everything in the physical, like in our bodies. And so we want to do so much like, mind altering medications and things because we're still so steeped in the physical instead of the energetic, which is
Yeah,
always so sad to me because there's so much energetic work that can be done that's so healing.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And the other thing that blows me away too, and I only recently learned this, like maybe in the last, I don't know, 5 years, but that we hold every single cell holds the trauma that we've experienced. Every cell in our body
Every
holds the
cell.
trauma.
Isn't that crazy
It's
to like think
crazy.
about? Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like no wonder we can't, a lot of times we cannot get over our traumas without help. Like, it's not that there's something wrong with us, it's that this is so profoundly affecting us to the point of cellular level, and it's in every cell.
every cell. Yeah,
So
every
crazy.
cell. Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful part. Again, I have the luxury of seeing so many people and hearing so many stories. And it is always interesting to me when I'm doing intake, especially with somebody new and they keep repeating the same words. So, like many moons ago, when I had my first constellation, my lady was in New York. So I was just on the phone and she pointed out, she said, do you realize you've said the word trap 23 times? I had no idea, but it clicked so deeply for me because I was like, oh my gosh, I was that little kid that was so afraid of being trapped. I didn't like coats. Like, I didn't like anything that would like zip me up. I was terrified of being trapped by a man, by a job, by anything. And then when I did my first constellation, when I stood on the paper, the very first paper, and I had no idea what I was doing and was like, this is so weird, but I did it. And I was like, oh, this is how I have felt my whole life. And it was my grandmother on my maternal side, who I never met. She died tragically when she was 43. But I was like, oh, I've been carrying around this really heavy weighted jacket that was not even mine.
Wow.
Like, I think that's something, Erin, that people love about FCT is you really physically get to feel the shifts. That was my favorite part, because I feel like it brings so much into your consciousness of what is mine versus what is, somebody else's.
I agree. And so during our session, Carrie asked me to put some numbered papers on the floor. And then she zoomed and we recorded. So you could be anywhere and get this amazing benefit of the session. And she didn't tell me what the numbers meant. She's just said, gave me instructions, go and stand on this number and do these things. And I found myself at every number leaning consistently to one number. And then on one number, I just laughed. Like I just broke out in this laugh and couldn't stop laughing. And so at the very end of it, Carrie said, look, the laughing number, that was your dad. And my dad is so funny. He's always made us laugh. He's like the quintessential terrible dad jokes. Like that's who he is. And so that really blew me away. And the person that I kept leaning into was my mom. So from every piece of paper I stood, my body would just drift over to be leaning towards the number that she was. That was really cool. And then you gave me the recordings that I could go back and watch it again, which I loved. So
Yeah.
it was very spectacular. So I feel like even if you're not, a believer, even if you're not a believer, just, but you feel like something may have happened that you're unaware of, what a great modality to just try. And it's super fun and it's not scary at all.
I love it. I mean, I'm so used to it, but and I get being nervous about trying something new that's a little out of the box, but it's so magical.
It is. Do you
Yeah.
have any, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any like fun stories of some clients that obviously we will change the name and protect
Yes.
them, but do you have any fun stories that you could share with us of some healing?
Oh gosh,
You've
let
got
me
so
think.
many.
I've got so many. I mean, some people have more kind of dramatic physical responses. I have one lady who came and did not want to be there, like did not want to be there. Her friend bought her a session. She had lost her mom, and this was pre-pandemic when I was seeing people in person. And she sat on my couch in my office with her arms crossed, like, "This is stupid. You are stupid. I don't want to do this." And then she stood on the paper, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was like a grandfather war trauma kind of paper, and it literally just pushed her into the wall. And then that night, she had had a dream about that grandfather who came to thank her for setting him free. And then it was like the chain of events that happened after. That's my favorite part. I get so many emails each week that are just, they blow my mind. Like so many really cool things and healings can happen after. I had a client probably 12, 13 years ago who came, and she grew up in a very abusive, sadly a very abusive household. The dad was very physically abusive. She hadn't talked to him in 20 years, hadn't seen him since she was a kid, had no idea if he was dead or alive. And so I kind of warned her. I kept getting this intuitive hit at the end of like, oh, he's going to reach out. And she was like, Carrie, there's physically no way. This man doesn't even know where I'm at. Within 24 hours, he found her on Instagram, got her email, and sent her the most beautiful like apology email. And so it's like stuff, I have goosebumps. It's like stuff like that that
Yeah.
is so rewarding. It's like the stuff you don't see coming because it frees them up and it frees us up to move forward.
It clears so much things for the entanglement, the energy to flow and to
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah.
another weird question for you maybe,
Yes.
do animals play a role ever in this?
I love that you asked that question. They do. They absolutely do. And it's so, I mean, animals are so intuitive. I feel like energy is their language, which is probably our natural language too, but we fight
Yes.
it. But
Yes.
I had a client who really, really wanted children, and it just didn't happen for her. And so her pets were her children. And she had had a dog that I think was like, I can't remember the breed, but he was 18 when he passed away. And she was devastated, rightfully so. And so we did a constellation probably a month or two after her little guy passed away, but she had got a new puppy. And so when we were doing the constellation, I put in the animal that passed away. He was his own paper. The puppy went and got her dog that died his favorite toy and put it on that paper. And it happens, Erin, it happens all the time. I have a monthly membership group and we do monthly constellations as a collective. And there's probably about 3 or 4 women that have animals, and the animal will go sit on the most traumatized paper, or they'll tear that paper up. Like
Wow.
they really, really get involved in the field. I think because that the field is so powerful, but to them, I think it's their language. But when he went and got the favorite toy and put it on his paper, we just both melted. It was a really beautiful moment.
I always tell my clients that animals are they just come to you as your teachers. And when you've got the lesson, then they're okay to leave.
Yeah, yeah,
They're like little Buddhas, I always would
yeah,
say to my
yeah,
clients, and they are extraordinarily intuitive. And
yeah,
you can fight that as a scientist and not look at your animal and understand their intuition. But what you're missing is something pretty incredible. And I always tell, I always talk about like coming home from a really busy and exhausting day and going into the field of the house, and your animal is just so happy to greet you, and the
yeah,
energy that you're carrying really affects them. And
yeah,
so I love to hear the stories in which they're incorporated
yeah.
into your.
Yeah, they love the field. They love it. It's so fun.
I hear that all the time, like with hands-on healing and Reiki, you'll see like the
Yeah,
cats like jumping on the table and like walking around because they want
yeah,
to be on the space. When I was
yeah.
learning it, my cat would lay and make my husband, of course, be my subject. My cat would just
Yeah.
like lay on his back and
Oh,
absorb all of it. She's like, "Yep, this is where I'm supposed to be." How
I
wonderful.
love it. I got a little bulldog, a little English bulldog after I got sick because I just was like, okay, I almost died. Like, I'm wide awake now. I'm going to get my first pet and see if I can commit to something other than myself because I was so afraid of being trapped by anything. And he absolutely changed my life. Like,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he was really sick and a little, yeah, he just had special kind of unique needs. And so I was doing my acupuncturist would do acupuncture on him. He had a vet that was a shaman. Like we were doing all sorts of really kind of out of the box thinking, but he loved the energy. He loved Reiki. Like those modalities, I feel like extended his life past, what I thought it would be. So I love
That
that.
is so cool. Do you
Yeah.
often work with like multiple family members, or is it typically just a person that comes to see you?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can. So if you were doing like a group constellation in person, you could have sometimes multiple family members. Typically, when I'm one-on-one with people, I work with a lot of couples, but I have them come individually because everybody kind of comes with their story, and then you can do like a group session together. But typically, people will just come independent of the rest of the family. What's beautiful about this work, I was the only person in my family system that had done anything, any therapy, any outside kind of healing modalities. And this work, Erin, absolutely rippled through my entire family. So, I
Really?
mean, rippled through my entire family. So now I have a bunch of cousins that have gone into therapy. People that were struggling with addiction got sober. Like it,
Oh,
it kind of heals by proxy. And I always tell people if you have the courage to do this work, it'll change your life. Like I think it's so hard to look at your own stuff, let alone look at all the suppressed stuff from your ancestors, but witnessing your pain and witnessing their pain is what will shift the energy.
and part of our compassion fatigue is that we don't do that work and we go in
Yeah.
and we take on, because our clients talk to us as veterinarians and veterinary staff members more, I
Yeah.
think, than their own doctor. I
Yeah.
used to get all kinds of stories of pain and suffering. And of course, I would get happiness
Mm.
stories too. But the pain and suffering, like we sort of take that on and we don't really know what to do with it. And
Mhm.
that is exhausting. And so, by unkinking, by letting the energy flow, by becoming whole in that we've worked to heal ourselves, we genuinely can go into the space with our clients and just being in the space offer healing to them. That is the most powerful thing. And I think at the beginning of my work, I feel like it was so easy for me to do that. I would go in, I would be
Mhm.
calm and loving, and I would offer, my own. I didn't know I was doing that. I was a kid. Like, I had just started practicing veterinary medicine. But the more the business, the more the financial, the more employees, we got bigger and bigger and bigger, the less I was able to have that energy flow and that healing. So that's why it's so important for me. Like, you can't get better just by having a great culture. You can't get better just by having your finances
Yeah.
be perfect. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
part of our work, Carrie, is to convince these beautiful, selfless, compassionate
Mhm.
people in the veterinary world is to go out and do the work. And it's really, and all these different modalities, like, it's really safe and it's very loving. And I present a lot of non-talk therapy because I think that sometimes the talk therapy through traumas is wonderful, but sometimes it's very painful.
I, again, because back 20, 30 years ago, no one was talking about this kind of stuff. Like it was all really underground. And so when that shaman came into my life miraculously, it set me on a path of healing. And I always tell people I grew up in a family filled with love, but I grew up with a family that had a ton of generational trauma. Our family motto was fight the pain. Nobody talked about anything. There was like just all sorts of stuff was kinking that hose. And so I got into therapy when I was like 26 or 27, talk therapy. And it was great. And I love therapy. And it was not enough for me. I am such a sensitive, deeply feeling person that I needed the somatic. I needed to get that out of my body. So when Family Constellation kind of found me, it just made so much sense to my brain because there is like that visceral piece and then it moves it out for good. And then you wake up the next day. I always tease people. I'm like, you're not going to like me for a day or two because it makes you really tired. It makes you
It
crazy
does.
tired.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. Like hit by a bus tired. But
Yep.
then you wake up and you're like, my God, I felt like I had taken off a backpack full of rocks. Like it really physically changed things for me. And I love that you keep bringing up flow, Erin, because in my work flow, they call it orders of love. So it's like you're just restoring the orders of love. So everyone gets to fill up on that love and support and kindness, and then they get to pass it forward, which is what
And
we all
don't we need
need.
that in this world right now? We need so much love. We need just big hugs and love all around and always.
I know. I went to get a coffee this morning and I was thinking of you and I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited to see her again." And then this man just pulled right on my booty in my car and just started flipping me off. And I started laughing because I was like, "Oh, they must be really tired." Like
Yeah,
that was my thought of like, "Oh, I think everyone is just so exhausted and like
so tired.
so tired,
So
you know,
mad.
so
There's a
mad."
better
And
way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm so
thank
excited for
you.
anybody to come and join you in your journey of healing. It's so beautiful. So, would you please tell our listeners how to find you?
Yes. So my website is just my name, Karie Gonia. My name is spelled weird. I know you guys will have a link. Instagram is and Facebook, Karie Gonia, YouTube, Karie Gonia. And I created a membership program called Legacy of Love, where we meet as a collective because I find
Oh,
one-on-ones are really beautiful, but healing in a collective and having that connection and that support, I think is really important. And so that's on my website too. But yeah.
okay, I have to just say, like, you just
Yes.
led me right into the most perfect thing, which is the whole reason we're having a retreat. Because it is wonderful to talk online, it is wonderful to talk
Yeah.
one-on-one, but when you get that energy in a room together of people that are hurting but want to get better and want to heal, there's nothing more powerful. Just that
Nothing more
alone,
powerful.
even though our retreat's going
Yeah,
to be pretty freaking cool, just that alone is like this just creates a spontaneous healing environment where your frequency is already much
yeah,
higher and you already feel better. And you know what? You feel not alone. Like, that's the
yeah.
best thing.
I created what I didn't have. I was completely isolated and alone during my healing journey and not having to go to all these places to find different
Yes.
modalities. So I created what I didn't have, you know.
I
Yeah.
love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so
Thank
much. Thank you for
you.
doing this. Thank you for treating us. Thank you for
Yes.
healing us because
Yes.
it's really exhausting. And I am very
Mm.
deeply appreciative of all that
Yes.
you do for us humans and animals.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to have seen you again.